This motherfucker was about to walk out on me.
It's nice and bright and loud in my headphones now. That's cool.
Welcome to Super Lemon Haze, episode number 3. We were just fucking around with the audio at least I was fucking around for like 45 minutes. Couldn't get a Skype call to work. I was hoping to have a guest on. Didn't work out. We're going to postpone, figure it out, do it another day. Anything to say, Scott, before we just roll?
I walked into Eric's house 3 beers deep, a couple of rips on the Super Lemon Haze, and I walk into a mad face. Straight mad face the whole way.
I mean, was it mad?
Coronavirus all over the place. Nonsense going on. I come over here to fuck around and have a good time, and I got mad face over a goddamn Skype call.
I promised myself today I'm not going to talk about that.
But I did get one halfy rip into him already, and he's taken a couple of gulps, so that mad face is starting to go away, which is nice. And he does have a nice smile, so I like him.
Speaking of nice smiles, I sent you that link to the Milton store for men.
You do look very pretty in that.
See that?
Yeah.
So for all those listening, Milton's store for men is a huge sponsor for the Kirk Minahan Show. And my wife and I were featured on their Instagram page. So
Old School Barstool sponsor, too, way back.
Old School Everything sponsor. They've been sponsoring pretty much all my favorite people for the past, 20 years. So I was pretty thrilled about that. Totally unexpected. I happened to buy my wedding suit there. And then about 2 months ago, I was over in the store checking out their winter sale to see if there was anything there that interested me. Couldn't find anything that was there at the moment, but spoke with the salesperson who sold me the suit and showed her the pictures. She was like, "Oh my God, you got to send those to me." I sent her a bunch of pictures, and voila, we're on the page. And I'm Insta famous for about 20 comments, maybe no,
something like that.
It was like 3 likes.
You had that Speedo picture that went on that made it onto the Instagram too, right?
I think that had like 600 likes. To be honest,
that was hot.
I'm definitely not going to post that Speedo picture, but.
When you start showing a little skin, that's where things get interesting, right? Not just that fancy beard.
It's not so fancy. It's kind of crummy, actually. I'm always looking for tutorials on how to trim the beard. All right, well, let's bring it back to what we're here to talk about. So this podcast, we're trying to cover topics regarding health and wellness, and then some alternative treatments. We talked about pot, we talked about the pens, we talked about some of the medical marijuana stuff. One thing that is just really hot right now, especially within the strength community, because I'm a big time strength athlete guy. I follow a lot of people online who are doing some powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, and these guys have been pushing this CBD oil for, I would say like the past 6 months. And, I always look at these little things that they're pushing, and I think of them as like placebos, and they're just like trying to hit a fad. There's a market right now, and, I think they've been just trying to push the CBD stuff for like people who have arthritis and things for a long time. And then I think they saw an opportunity with some of the strength sports. So a lot of my guys, a lot of the people and women who I've been following for quite some time, started making stories about or posts about the CBD stuff, and I'm like, what a bunch of bullshit. So I really didn't think much of it. I did want to bring that up today, but more it's just kind of like crazy. But this was on my mind. This was a topic I wanted to discuss, and then today, USAW, which is the United States of America Weightlifting. They're basically the people who put national team athletes to the Olympics, and they came out with this sponsorship with this company called Pure Spectrum, which I guess is a CBD oil company. So I started reading about it, and I just thought this was a huge step in sort of the culture of sports to introduce something where the actual, I know marijuana is still considered an illicit drug, an illegal drug to be taken when you're performing at a national team level. So if you got drug tested with, THC, or I don't even know what they're measuring, but whatever is in pot, if you're smoking that, or if you're using a pen, or if you're eating it, whatever, using gummies or whatever, if you got that shit in your system and you do a drug test after a meet or even a random drug test, and they catch you, you're fucked. But this CBD stuff, I just thought it was super interesting that they were putting CBD oil on, the United States of America weightlifting page as a sponsor. So what are your thoughts on that, Scott?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's topical, so you're ingesting it. Or you're not ingesting it, right? So it's not something that's getting into, I don't think it's a situation where it's getting into your bloodstream. CBD is non-psychoactive. So there's a lot of fakers and a lot of it's a flush market. So it's kind of these, it's a buzzword.
But even if you're, so I'm sorry to stop you, but if you're putting something on your skin, it has to absorb into your bloodstream at some point. But you're saying it's just whatever's in there
we
is
need
not.
to maybe start. Yeah, maybe we should look up. We need to get a little current on what are the new. Has there been any testing? Adoptions or adaptations or whatever? Because if they're putting that, I mean, there's definitely going to come up some kind of a trace, I would imagine, of some way, shape, or form. But yeah, interesting.
So what do you know about CBD?
I mean, for
do you
me,
use it? Do you take it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's usually in the form of an oil or a topic or a lotion, and it's basically an anti-inflammatory. So it's good for a good stretch. It's good for for sore muscles. It's good for.
I guess this is where I get lost. You say it's good for. So let's just use the comparison. So a person who's exercising a ton, who feels those symptoms or sensations that you're mentioning, sore muscles all the time or aches, or someone with arthritis, and they're pumping like Advil or Tylenol or some other sort of sports cream. So are you saying that the CBD oil is something that's more effective?
I don't know if
to treat those things.
I don't
or
know
is
if
it
it's going to be more effective because everybody has their own ways. Everybody's got their own way of getting by and what works for them. But I think if you're playing around with CBD oils or you're using those topicals or lotions, you're probably looking for another. It's another alternative. It's another method that you could use. So it's my experience heats up, gives you a good. Almost like a warming sensation a lot of times, especially to an elbow or a knee joint, something like that. And it's really good for on hamstrings or quads for stretching out has been my experience. Now, I've been an Advil guy too forever, especially with sore backs and sore knees and things like that. But what I've noticed is after a while, especially with the Advils, start getting the stomach pains and you start eating away at your gut biomes and stomach linings and things like that. So it's another alternative to kind of cut back maybe on something like that or supplement in to some treatment.
So you rub it on, you lube up
a little bit.
You lube up with your CBD oil.
Yeah.
And you're saying right away it starts to have some effect, some physiological effect?
Yeah, real warming effect. And then kind of almost like a little bit of a numbing effect too. So kind of take that pain away from the joint. So I had a meniscus tear at a young age, and then kind of like a partial PCL, so a ligament in there tear, where it wasn't enough to really get it surgically repaired. And they basically said, the move is to kind of build up everything around it as best as you can and kind of get by until it really becomes a problem. So it's kind of an ongoing kind of strengthening, re-strengthening, but it's still kind of, dealing with some pain, clicks a little bit, that kind of stuff. So we get that CBD oil on there and it just feels like it's kind of lubed up a little bit. It's warmed up and a little bit less pain and just feels looser. Feels like I can move it around a little bit better, which then allows me to stretch, work out a little bit more, get it moving, strengthen up, that kind of thing.
I don't buy this.
Not at all.
No. I mean, I guess I'm thinking about this as so marijuana, the marijuana is made up of cannabinoids, right? That's the term, right?
Cannabinoids.
Yeah. Cannabinoids.
It's good to say after you've taken a couple of rips of the lemon haze too, cannabinoids. Let me take this top off for you here too. Take that. There you go. Now get in there.
I'm about to take. So I'm looking at the pen. So there's CBD oil in this right now.
Well, no, that's concentrated marijuana right there, my friend.
So
a little bit different.
So cannabinoids. So what cannabinoids are in this then?
We could read the box and possibly tweet out kind of the whole ingredients list here, but you got a bunch of different basically THC, different kinds of cannabinoids that are more psychoactive.
Right. So I'm looking at the box. I will tweet this out. But there is something that does say CBD on it.
Just a, yeah. So there's
CBD
a
30%?
Exactly. But it's just, so it's a little bit, this is more of a psychoactive mixture, I would say. Whereas,
But the
you can buy
CBD oil in this, if it's isolated, it's the same thing that you're putting on your joints?
Exactly. So what they're doing is they're either doing a 1-to-1 mixture, so actually 50-50 type of mix, or you're actually getting, again, when you're getting in a topical, it's all CBD.
But you said a person would receive the benefits if they rub it on the topical stuff if you're doing CBD oil, but are you getting the same inflammatory effects if you're smoking it?
So there have been some example. There you can definitely
before you. I'm gonna.
No, go ahead. You vape that, and I'll talk for a sec. You can vape it also, and get some, I guess, healing effects.
You happy with
Headache.
that one?
That was good. That was
Super
a great
Lemon Haze,
hit.
motherfucker.
That was an excellent hit. Good job. I think I remember there was a UFC fighter that was ripping his CBD pen a couple years ago, and then he got busted by the UFC for smoking weed. I remember it because he was like visibly smoking a pen in front of them and saying it's all CBD. It's not THC. It's CBD. And he was saying he was using it for just general pain management, vaping it. Again, for me, my side of it, my experience, pain management was using it as a topical, as a lotion or an oil.
But again, I don't think you answered my question. So you're smoking it,
You can smoke it. You can apply
and this
it.
person who you're saying, the athlete who was using it, was just using the CBD oil, or you're saying that he was?
I think he was
smoking...
vaping a cartridge. Yeah, he was vaping a cartridge. I remember it was like at a press conference after a UFC fight, and I remember he won, and he was like hitting the pen at the press conference. I remember it made news. Well, I'll have to look that up as we're getting through this, but yeah. So you can vape it just to that point.
All right, wait, hold
but
on
here,
a second. So this is what's happening to me right now. I just need to go through the steps.
we're processing.
I know.
Okay, what do we got?
There's a tingling, right, in my feet.
Have you been putting CBD? Have you been putting any CBD on your feet?
No, I'm telling you right now.
Just from the rip of lemon haze that you took?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a whole different story. We'll get into that later.
I know, but this is so
What got
I
me-
need to talk about this for just 2 seconds.
All right, we're going to hear your sensations. All right, let's do this.
So I mean, this is
We're
where
going through the steps with Eric right now.
and I think this is where it connects to part of my anxiety, right? So you start to feel sensations, and then I think this is what anxiety is, right? You start to do your body scan. You start to kind of hang on to some of those sensations, which kind of puts you into this spiral, right?
Okay.
Where you can't really explain it. You feel something, and then your brain's sort of like wandering around thinking, what the fuck is this?
Are you concerned for your well-being right now?
I'm absolutely not
Excellent.
concerned whatsoever.
Okay, good.
I'm concerned for my thirst because I'm fucking thirsty.
That's we got a nice hoppy double IPA on the menu.
No, but all right.
So hold on, just quick point,
Yeah,
real
you
quick.
make your
Before we
point.
get back to your sensations, what got me and like on the CBD thing was, shout out to the podcast Godfathers of the World. Joe Rogan had, I think he had Ted Nugent on, super conservative, super old school guy down there. He's on Joe's podcast talking about a bunch of conservative stuff, and Joe, of course, pretty active marijuana user.
I would
and
say
pusher.
very active.
Starts asking.
That was Elon Musk, right? Who
Got him to smoke on the podcast.
on the
That
podcast,
was
and then the
amazing,
stock like fucking
pretty cool.
tanked.
Well, there was a little issue, but anyways,
Right.
he's talking to him about his sore knees and sore like all kinds of like shin splints and sore knees, I believe, and. Joe suggests that he try CBD oil, and I mean, he wrote back to Joe or emailed back to Joe a couple weeks later, and Joe's since on, podcasts after the fact talked about how he's bought in now and like he's in on it, and he was like this anti-pod, super old school kind of very conservative type guy, and here he is now using CBD oil in light of all of that.
So I think that's
pretty cool story. That's what kind of got me interested. I started looking it up and kind of went from there. If that guy could be turned.
Right. Well, see, I think that's, again, all of these conversations kind of circle around one another, but like, we're talking about stigma, right? So the stigma of using marijuana, and there's a lot of that, right? So even, a healthy person who's very productive, if you put that person with a joint in his hand in like the bathroom and someone caught him, it's a big fucking deal, right? Like it changes the perception of what people might think of that person just because they're fucking smoking a joint. But now, I guess, and what CBD has been around for what? I mean, what do you think on the mainstream market? Like a year or two?
Yeah, it's like a couple years in now.
Yeah,
It's
so
a few years in.
But they have done a phenomenal job marketing that product to kind of
It's a flush
separate
market, yeah.
to separate its true identity, basically. You know, so they've, not to say that there's any like it's like what's the hallucinogen component to it that makes marijuana, like gives marijuana like the bad
There's
the bad
a
rep.
couple of different cannabinoids that I guess are more psychoactive or whatever that give those different sensations that are not present in the CBD strain.
So whoever the fucking did that marketing is a genius, because because like the CBD oil is a part of the formulation of marijuana, right? Like they're somehow stripping it from the hemp.
Yeah,
or
it's just how it's grown or what the,
Right.
exactly. And again, I mean, hemp's a pretty awesome super plant in general, right? Like the base, whatever you got to go back into your, what is it, genus probably or whatever, go back to your science class. But that plant is an amazing ass plant. And it's sort of been restricted due to some crazy politics in the early 1900s that really didn't have anything to do with the fact that it was just an awesome plant.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do a lot of different things with it. You can grow it a lot of different ways. And CBD is one thing that has really come from that, it probably should have been around 50 years ago, but due to William Randolph Hearst and the paper industry, I believe, it went from there. So,
What do you mean by that?
So I believe he, again, dumb Wikipedia facts, and I'll probably screw this up royally, but from what I understand, early 1900s, William Randolph Hearst, he was a paper baron, and hemp posed a major threat to the paper industry. So he was able to basically.
What is hemp like? Hemp's a plant, you said, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a plant. It's a plant. So basically he used that in propaganda tactics to talk about how marijuana,
Because of the flower that came from.
Yeah, marijuana was a bad influence on America, and it came from this hemp plant. And then there was all these restrictions on hemp and all of that in the U.S. after
So
that.
someone had invented a process to use hemp to make paper. Is that what you're saying?
It's a super plant. It can do anything. Clothing, paper. It's amazing. Look it up. It's unreal. Google hemp. It's unreal.
Again, this is completely foreign to me. I would never spend any
It's like an
amount of
alien
time.
plant. It will grow anywhere, and you can do anything with it. It's
Is that why?
amazing
Is that
stuff.
why they allow cancer patients to smoke it? Is that something, or that's just more for the?
I think that got into more of the. Yeah, I think that's more. You're talking about medical marijuana now.
Yeah.
Now you're getting into the. Now you're getting into the meat and potatoes.
But hemp's not
and
curing anything, is what you're saying. You can use. So it sounds like it's a more physically
utility,
versatile.
brother. It's utility. Yeah. Textiles.
Right, for textiles, not for consumption. You don't consume hemp, right? You
Nope.
don't.
No,
You're not eating
it's not
it.
a food product.
It's not like a fucking like. You're not gonna get
No,
like
it ain't corn. It ain't soybeans.
Right.
But yeah, clothing. I mean, you can do tons with it. It's apparently a pretty badass plant. But again, hasn't had the opportunity to really be cultivated or really brought to production in the U.S. because of a bunch of crazy old school laws.
Right. I mean, but that's changing now.
From what I understand a little bit.
Where is hemp being grown? Like, where are we getting the majority of it at the moment?
No fucking clue.
Come on.
I don't know.
Not even.
I got no
not even
sources
inkling?
on. I got nothing on the hemp crops. Unfortunately, we'll have to do some research there.
Maybe we start growing our own hemp crop.
Well, listen, you can grow your own weed in Massachusetts, so enjoy.
That's
Enjoy.
true.
We can start firing some plants up in the basement right here if you want to, fella. I think you can have like 7 plants.
I don't think I'm investing in pot growing right now. Not with 3 kids in the house at the moment. Maybe when they're out of the house. So maybe in 20 years.
But you're definitely crossing like into a lot of good topics about like dads that have to smoke, parents that are smoking and trying different products. Now you got weightlifters that are trying these products. I mean, things are starting to go mainstream for sure.
What does mainstream mean? So you're saying that it's because you're basically saying it's hitting a market that's been it's now opened to the public.
I'd like to think it's cutting into that. Yeah, the people that are using those pharmaceuticals that have always used those pharmaceuticals. It's kind of cutting into that a little bit. Maybe erasing some stigmas. No. I mean, you're hanging out here ripping a vape with me, and you said you weren't a big smoker, right?
I'm not a good smoker.
And you are a dad, I believe.
That is true.
And you got a couple things going on here, and you're pretty, as we said, a pretty enterprising guy. So I think we're kind of erasing stigmas even with you, no?
Yeah, but no one would know that I'm doing this.
That's the best part, fella.
Right. So we're not necessarily erasing any stigmas because it's not like I'm walking outside with a pen in my ear.
Yeah, you're not advertising.
No.
Right.
I mean, minus this podcast.
But I guess you're a little bit more. But if somebody was to say to you, let's say you were hanging out at a party,
yeah,
and it was appropriate. There wasn't, your kids weren't running around or something crazy like that. But you're hanging out with some friends, and you were in a comfortable environment. Somebody pulled out a pen, took a couple rips, and handed it to you. Minus, obviously, corona contagion.
So the person wiped it down. First,
well, in this day and age,
Purelled his hands or her hands.
Right, washed your hands
then
and
took a Clorox
sung
wipe.
Happy Birthday for a while.
And then a mouthful of mouthwash. And then
mouthwash would work. Yeah, bleach. Maybe you poured bleach in your face. But anyway, yeah. If you had, taken a rip. Or if you've been hanging out with somebody that just hands you a cartridge or hands you a pen these days, you'd probably be okay with it, right? So that's a bit of a stigma being erased. Whereas in the past, you even said it yourself. You'd be like, fuck this punk. Who the fuck is this slacker? Where's he going? But he's going to go play video games in the basement after he rips that pen?
I mean, I'll be honest. I think the idea of a pen, it changes the game for me. You know, because there's kind of like a dirty feel or a dirty... conception of a guy rolling a joint and smoking some stinky, some fucking stinky
smoke,
weed, right?
Smoke,
like that.
smell, right.
Like when I was a kid, when I was like in the 80s and 90s, just growing up and going into like my suburban friends' houses, and I would smell that smell, I'd be like, dude, it smells like a fucking skunk in here. And then like after, I guess I would learn that smell is not a skunk. It's just someone smoking weed in the house.
Yeah.
It would just, again, it was like, I guess maybe that was part of like what my father bred in me, but like, I would be like, fuck that. No way, man. These are fucking idiots. So I guess the idea that it went into a pen form, I mean, like I'm looking at your thing right now and, yeah,
it's kind of a bigger, longer battery, but the cartridge is
but like
only 2 inches.
It's got a fucking digital end to it, it's got a display, right? A digital display.
Yep.
I'm sure this is
Telling you how many
USB
volts
charger,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I mean, this looks like a fucking piece of fancy furniture. I mean, you're just like, everyone's,
imagine you handed that to somebody in like the 60s. They were smoking a joint, and you handed them that. They'd be like,
right.
"The fuck is this spaceship?"
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's almost become fashion, right? It's fashionable. I mean, obviously that was the whole thing with the Juul and why they're fucking suing the hell out of them because they made it look so cool.
Right.
A cigarette looked like fucking
Marketed
shit.
to kids.
Right.
Made it look cool.
I don't know if they were marketing it to kids, but the flavor piece.
It did a pretty good job of it either way.
Yeah. But I guess, but then I'm looking at this, which doesn't look like a Juul. This literally looks like, you and I are both watch investors. I like to think of yourself as historically a person who enjoyed that hobby to collect watches. I'm just getting into it, but I've made some significant investments recently, and like this to me looks like I can wear my father's watch in one hand and I can have this in the other and feel equally balanced.
It's the dad special. Special. But what's interesting about this is it's concentrated weed, so it's different than smoking a joint, right? If a couple of rips of that might be. Could be stronger than smoking a joint. It could be a completely different experience than somebody that smokes a joint and just fires up flour, so to speak. So it's funny, like there's no blood alcohol content for weed. You know how many glasses of whiskey you can have before you feel like you're getting hot in the face. You know how many beers you can have before you start. You're gonna have the spins that night.
Right.
Or you need to kind of space it out with some water. It's a lot of trepidation with this stuff. You got to be careful,
Well, I guess that brings up an interesting point too. So what you're saying is obviously there's an illegality to drinking too much alcohol. You fucking drink too many beers, too many glasses of wine. You get behind a wheel,
right?
Someone pulls you over, and like there's a clear limit, right? It's I don't know what's 0.8 or whatever it is in other states, but what's the situation if you get pulled over and you're high?
I mean,
what can they do?
The cop has reasonable cause, I believe, right? They can pretty much do as they please. And if you're not looking good or not feeling well, eventually you'll get to a blood test, that they can get you down to the station on reasonable cause, I believe it would be they'd eventually, I guess, full escalation. You're talking about a blood test, and they could figure it out, I'm sure. But I say
there's
BAC, not necessarily getting into driving situations. Regardless, you get an eye, you shouldn't be driving. That's bottom line.
First of all, for those of you who are idiots like me, BAC is like blood alcohol. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying in
Concentration?
general, like, regardless of
that's BAC, right?
Yeah, blood alcohol content, right? But like,
Content.
if I'm just saying, forget about the driving aspect of it. Just we have a measure of what's considered under the influence, right? Not necessarily any kind of a measure when you're taking a couple of these rips, right? So you got to be careful about some of this stuff, and you don't really know how to quite measure. And there's a lot of just. You never know. You don't really know what you're getting into until you've really been there.
Well, so I get to what you're saying, but so you're saying basically a person who's just getting into the habit of using a pen or gummies or whatever else they might be prescribed or choosing to use recreationally, there's no real known effect of what one gummy might do to you or
Affects
how
everybody differently, and there's no general measure like alcohol in the blood.
But I mean, I hate to say this, but like, and I'm not like condoning drunk driving, but like, I go out to dinner, I have a couple beers, I'm going to get behind my car and drive home.
Right, because you know what the measure is.
So the measure, you're basically saying, so with experience, because I've been drinking alcohol for, how old am I? I'm 41. So, but just for 20 years. I've only been drinking alcohol for 20 years. Kids, if you're listening to this.
Drink responsibly, folks.
Yeah. So you're saying I have the experience to know that like 3 beers puts me at a point where I'm capable of driving. Because I mean, I've never like blown into a fucking like device to see what my alcohol level is. So like, I mean, I can guarantee you that there are definitely times where
even just think about the alcohol industry in general. It's regulated, right? Like 80 proof. It's all the same. Everything's measured. Everything's metriced and measured. If you ask me, when it comes to alcohol, for the most part, exactly how strong it is. Now, obviously, everybody reacts differently to every kind of toxin they put in their body, but I feel like that is more of a little bit more of a measured, regulated type of activity, I guess you could say. I'm
still not buying this. Because I'm trying to think of what you're saying, and you're basically saying that every person should know what like a shot of vodka would do to them, or how many beers it takes for them to get.
Yeah, I can pour you a shot of whiskey, and I know, and we know how many shots.
Because I have a tolerance, right?
And we kind of know where those shots are going to lead to, where you're going to go on that tolerance. If you take, you hold onto that button an extra.
But we're not talking about not being able to.
Think about how much vape goes into. Like, think about how this podcast started, when that thing blasted me in the face, and I was giggling to myself, shouting "Super Lemon Haze."
Right.
It's kind of how big does that rip get? How much do you really pull on that thing? How many do you take? It's a little bit of an unmeasurable type of situation.
But you're saying with time and experience,
yes,
then you get to know. So you'll know that like if you buy. I'm looking at the premium extract of 0.5. Like when you go to the store, are you looking at all these? Because I obviously like that's a lot to know. Premium extract 0.5 milliliters, and then like what are you looking at? Or do you just when you walk up to the counter, what do you say?
Well, I have a menu. I'm handed a menu. I'm handed a menu.
I got to go through this with you.
I can't wait.
So can I go in? You have the card, but I can't come until I get a card.
We're going to get you your card.
I have to get a card.
We have to go. Remember, we're going to go get your head analyzed.
And there is a difference between going to a recreational dispensary than going to a medical.
We could do the recreational if you want.
Yeah. Well, I would like to try it. I mean, we could do both, but I mean, it sounds
a little bit more VIP, a little bit more VIP access with the medical.
Is that what it is?
Go over to Needham right here, nearby, whatever we need to do. Yeah, Somerville, nice facilities. The recreational thing is a little, like I said in our original podcast, pretty chaotic. Long lines.
Yeah,
you got to worry about your professor catching you or.
So is the medical marijuana part? Is it like? What are you saying? It's like by appointment only?
Yeah, appointment. In a lot of places, it's appointment only, and it's just they're not as crowded and not as crazy, just because that demand is kind of a different story. So yeah, you can get to then there's more of those. I think there's more than a dozen medical marijuana facilities. Mm-hmm. There's only a couple of recreational facilities that are approved. They'll get there. They're all going to open up. Massachusetts is just slow to adopt. They take their time. They regulate heavily. So I mean, in 2 years from now, there'll probably be 5 or 6. What do you call it? Legal recreational dispensaries.
I mean, it's funny just because I know that even that there's a stigma associated with it, like just the waiting in the line, that long concert
You're worried.
looking
Like
line.
you said it yourself. You don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want to be caught standing in the line at
Right.
the friggin' pot house.
Yeah,
It's weird.
like it also seems. The other thing too is that maybe this is because a lot of the people who are like us, who are maybe at the executive or above, have purchased this medical marijuana card for that stigma alone because they don't want to wait in line. Because like sometimes I go by the Brookline, and I'm like it looks like a fucking hodgepodge, like a motley crew of like
crazy.
deadbeats.
Yeah, and if you have the medical
And
card,
I'm not
you
saying
walk right
that-
in. You don't stand on that line.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like
it's a whole
that
different side of
line,
the- yeah.
that line is not something that I want to be associated with. Like these aren't people wearing suits every single day to work like I am, or like you do if you need to.
I mean, you're touching
Like-
upon the precipice of dads covering up,
Right.
parents covering. I guess I don't want to
Yeah.
gender specific, but parents covering up and people protecting a reputation for years.
Yeah.
for
So-
years, and it's starting to open up now. It's just starting to, we're just starting to kind of wash that away and get there. But everybody still has that little bit of like, even your face. I'm looking at you
Yeah.
right now. As you say, you don't buy it because it's tough. It's tough stigma to get by. You got all these old kind
Be
of.
clear what you're saying. What do you mean? What should we talk? I mean, like I am not opposed to going down this route of getting a medical marijuana card and then exploring that whole.
So I got a buddy. I got a buddy right now. I send him a couple of cartridges. Make sure he's taken care of, helping out with his anxiety. I'm a part-time doctor, as you know, on the side, of course, as I am your doctor. And,
Dr. Scott.
Just a quote I picked up from the text chain the other day that I thought was.
Wait,
good.
so let me just be clear on what's happening. So this is a person who has a medical marijuana card, who doesn't have any experience with it, and you're basically just giving him the.
I help him out. Yeah, I
you
sort
help
him out.
So you're not just like you're not buying this for him, or
I give him a recommendation on what he
Right.
should be dealing with and how he should be getting
Yeah.
into this because he had
and as a
been.
person, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
please,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
But kind of like CVS, where you can go to any CVS in the entire country, and you know that your medication is behind that counter. If you make a recommendation, is that person going to be able to find exactly what you're saying because you're going to a
I
dispensary?
mean, it's always a
here
little
and
bit like
dispensary
catch as
there?
catch can. So we're looking at menus and kind of looking at stuff. You kind of have to deal with what's available right now or whatever. Like if he's like, all right, I'm going to go in tomorrow. So we take a look at the menu and see like what's going on.
if this
there.
person-
It's not as regular as going to the CVS and knowing
Right.
that there's always that, 800 milligram ibuprofen or a Vicodin or something like that.
So that person who, like, for example, if you're a Massachusetts person and you're very familiar with like the menus and things that they have here, and you're talking to someone in like South Carolina, like it could be completely different, right? I mean,
There's
or
not.
New
I don't
York.
even know that it's. Yeah, I mean, we got to be in a place where they're legal. So if they're in a different state,
Right,
that's a
right,
different.
right.
That's a whole.
Yeah,
other
I guess I just didn't mean.
conversation.
I meant to. I think is it legal? Where is it legal now? It's Colorado.
Oh
it's
my
here.
goodness. Yeah, there's a few.
Is, is it New York?
We're getting there now. No, I think it's only
No.
medical in New York.
Yeah.
Legal in Maine.
But medical means that the person you still can consult with then, because the person's going into. If the person has a medical card.
I'm trying to help. Yeah, and these happen to be Massachusetts guys, so it's all good.
So do all these guys have a medical card, or some of them and some of them don't?
The ones that I'm going to reference right now,
Yeah.
medical users.
Okay.
So they've been pretty responsible. They've
Yeah.
taken the time, as I've told you. They've gone through the steps, whatever the case needs to be, right? But some of my favorite, like this one was one of my favorite quotes was, if I go, so he's got a pen. I've sorted him out. He's got a nice hybrid pen to kind of help him through some anxiety and more towards the end of the evening for him, just kind of coming down. Gets home from work. The guy's got a good job, like pharmaceutical sales rep type of deal. If I go unaccounted for more than a minute or two, one of my litter will track me down. So, hiding out in the basement. He's got to
Right.
run down there. Take the trash out, something like that. A couple
Right.
of quick rips. Get back into
Feed the donkey.
Yeah. Well, so
Feed the goat.
Feed the goat.
Go night fishing.
Again, we can get into all these.
Right.
These are lots of good euphemisms to
Yeah.
help with stigma.
Yeah, I mean,
unfortunately.
honestly, just to get back to the sort of the niceness of this pen. Not only does it look good, but like there's very little odor, right? And also,
Dad's special.
and I mean, there's no smell.
Low smell.
I mean, there's
Little bit.
there's not no smell, but I mean, obviously, it depends on how many times you hit it, though. Like, if you can hit it once and it just goes away, and then you're not smelling it.
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean, if you can vape the room up just like anything and blow
Sure.
some smoke all over the place. But
Right.
but yeah, I mean, not bad. Like we were
Right.
hanging out as we were, when we were on our vacation, hanging
Yeah.
out on various decks
Right.
and pools
Not
and
a single
stuff.
person says
Nobody
nothing.
could care. I mean, outdoor in the open air blows away in a second. No
Right.
big deal. That's why it's the kind of, like I said, it's the parent special. You
Yeah.
need to you need to run out, take the trash out, tell somebody you got to walk the dog for a quick second.
Right.
Couple quick rips and you're in and out.
The
where
base of
we're
this,
at these days.
the base of this is the battery, and then the tip is what has the oil, right?
Yeah, so you're looking at a cartridge that just screws into a battery. That battery is just an old, bigger battery, so it makes it look a little bit bigger. But we send out a picture.
So when you're going to a dispensary, or if you're going to the medical marijuana place for the first time, there's like an array of these. You have a choice.
Yeah, well, they'll come in this package and they'll take pictures and just show you the pictures of the cartridge. Really, so there's not much of a visual.
the
so
cartridge or
it's
the
more
battery?
Just this cartridge. Forget the
Right.
battery. The
Oh, yeah,
battery.
yeah.
You can buy this battery on Amazon.
So
if
that's
you
what
wanted to.
that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
battery,
Battery's no
'cause the
big deal. That's
the
just a piece of
cartridge
equipment.
is fine, but like the battery is what looks impressive to me.
Right.
Like
so if I was
that's
to
what looks
unscrew this, when I walked in
technology.
and like just like that picture you tweeted out
Yeah.
for our first show, I mean, you're basically looking at a cartridge in a cardboard wrapping, so
Yeah.
to speak, with
Gotcha.
a bunch of medical shit all over it.
and
saying
only one
how-
comes in those packages at a time.
just like that, brother.
Yeah.
That's it.
What's the price on that?
This one goes, yeah, they're all different kind of, most of them are half, what are they, 500 milligrams, right?
I don't know.
0.5 milliliters. So yeah, most of these, they go in the range of like 40 to $70, kind of depending on concentration, how much they're, what kind of strain they are, stuff like that. Sometimes they'll make a strain or press a strain that's a really popular one.
So I'm actually, so I want to go back to those three guys that you're helping out right now. So how does that work? What's that process like?
Well, I mean, for me, they're just my buddies, right? So, similar to like kind of the conversations I've had with you where, guys that have either had, went through the ringer with pain pills and it's all good now, thank God, but, dealing with random
Like you mean the opioid?
yeah,
kind of stuff?
opioid stuff like that, and
Yeah.
had to kind of get, not too bad, but had to get through that. One found himself drinking, 3 cups of gin every night after work to get by on things, and the
So
other
would
one,
you say that was more like stress and anxiety type stuff?
yeah, just trying to end his day and
Yeah.
chill out or whatever, right? And then another one travels a ton and just ex-athlete, sore, always moving around, just didn't want to, was looking for some options for some pain treatment. So, I mean, it really just comes down to, okay, this is this stuff's now recreational and or medical. What the hell do I do with this? I can't buy a dime bag, as we said, anymore, right? So, like, what the hell am I going to do with this?
I'm gonna go contact my dealer at the
and then
corner.
I don't want to stand on that fucking line. So,
Right.
like, what do I do?
Right. We just took a break.
Quick pee break.
Had
Quick
to
pee
pee.
break.
And
It's not good. I'm not saying pee break very well. That wasn't good. That wasn't a good test.
I had to pour myself.
And now you're down to the hard stuff.
3 ounces of scotch. Just to kill it for you guys.
Brown booze.
All right, so let's get back to where we're talking about.
We were talking about, stigmas, dads that smoke.
Right.
I have a quick, good older folks that smoke story that was awesome. Like one of my like epiphany moments around just the
Hold on a
idea that
second.
you have to
You
hide
hear
out. There it is. Click it. Clink, clink.
So I'm not a neat guy.
Clink, clink.
I'm not a fucking neat guy. I'm a guy who likes 4 or 5 cubes in there. And people would say, "Oh, you're fucking watering down some really expensive scotch." And you know what I say to that? Fuck off, motherfucker. It's my scotch. I can do whatever the fuck I want with this.
You should tell them about
my
your
scotch.
leather-bound books and how it smells of rich mahogany in here.
He's lying, asshole. All right, go with your dad's story.
So I
Fucking
go
dad story.
to, I mean, it's probably like at least a year and a half. It's probably 2 years into dating my now wife. I go to
Who I
Florida.
love, by the way.
She's awesome.
She's
Our
awesome.
wives get along well. They're good.
They do.
Good
They're both
folks.
awesome.
Life is good. Life is good in the old neighborhood.
I'm not gonna think about how we got them, because then the world may unfold. And wait, the world is unfolding.
It's about to, but
Right.
we can
Okay.
do that in another podcast.
Another podcast. Go ahead.
So I go down Florida, kind of the outside of the country, outside of Tampa, kind of not in the city, so kind of out there a little bit. Florida locals, born and bred type folks.
Where are you?
They're in Temple Terrace.
Oh, Temple Terrace.
So yeah, kind of a older.
Like I say Temple Terrace. Like it's like,
It's cool. It's a cool town,
Boston.
but it's not like it's not one of these that just kind of popped up with a golf course. Like it's a real like old school Florida community.
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, nice little kind of like suburban Florida type place. Go down there, and I'm at the uncle's house, and with the whole family, a bunch of brothers and sisters, so big family. And at some point, the uncle, who's super friendly, great guys, been one of the more friendly ones out of the group of all the, her dad and her mom's like different brothers and sisters and stuff. And he says, he starts talking. He says, I got this old car out back that I love. I used to drive it when I was a kid, and I'm lucky enough to have kept onto it. And he goes, it's an MGB. Which is an old British like coupe racing car, like little.
So that's an actual thing.
It's a car. It's a real car. Gotcha. Yeah, it's an old British.
I thought that stood for something like.
It stands for something. I have no fucking clue what it stands for. Something cool in Britain, in like fucking jolly old England.
Right.
But my dad had an MG when I was a kid. He had a '77 MGB, a little like green two-door,
like a real
collectible car.
Gotcha.
Yeah, collectible antique car. Yeah, he had a fucking MG.
Yeah.
So I light up like first of all, number one, not too many people fucking tell you about an MG. Like as you said, you didn't even know what the fucking MG is, right? I wouldn't have known what the fucking MG was, but my dad had a hard on for these things when he was a kid, I guess. He fucking ran him around and took a corner on rails type of shit. They're apparently like nice performing. They don't go fast. They take turns like crazy. Gotcha. They're a little low to the ground, little
which
go-karts.
can save you in a race, obviously. If you're
cool cars, little British racing cars, made for running the mountains and the hills. So I'm like, holy shit, Jim, that's amazing. My dad restored an old MG. He was I know all about MGs. My dad had a '77 MGB, and he's like, "That's fucking awesome, kid. Come on out to the garage with me." So I get out to the garage, and all the brothers and their buddies are all out there, and they're passing a joint around and getting ripped out of their face.
And you're looking around thinking, where the fuck is this MGB?
And I play it cool. That's exactly what I'm thinking, but I don't say any of that. Yeah. And I start. They pass me the joint. He passes me the joint. Takes a rip of the joint. He passes it to me, and I mean, I'm fine. It's not like it's my first rodeo, so all good. I'm just kind of hanging around. And then, one of the uncles that I had been that I knew a little bit more specifically because I had been to his son's wedding, and her father, my wife's father, also are cued in on what's going on in this little smoke fest party out back. And they walk in. They've known me for 2 years. And they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? Right. And I'm looking at them like, what the fuck are you two doing here? I didn't know this was, and it's kind of like this epiphany of what's going on. Finally, the guy, the one that led me out there, who's this, the most friendly hippie of all, and kind of he's the guy that brings everybody together, so to speak. He starts laughing about the whole situation and kind of calls it all out, and he's like, "Well, what do you think? You good with all this?" And I was like, "I just wanted to fucking see the MG." Turns out he's got two back there, by the way, two fucking MGs. He's got one from like the 50s and one from the 70s.
Gotcha.
But anyway, what I thought it was amazing because what I realized in this funny moment of all of this was that. And they start talking to me. They're talking to me about fucking, they're getting high as shit, so they're just rambling. But they're talking about Nancy Reagan.
They're smoking a joint and then rolling
with me.
One?
And I think we rolled a couple of joints actually. We hung out there for a while and fucked around while they were making dinner and hanging out or whatever. But what blew me away was that we're in a separate structure, like 100 feet from the house, and we're yucking it up and talking about all this, and it's been kept secret between me to them and then them to me for 2 years almost now. And they start talking to me about like, we could, all of a sudden it's like, you're not telling anybody about this. You're not telling Tommy. You're not telling so-and-so.
Is the secret the fact that you guys were all together and have this like little retreat, or is it? I mean, because like I can't imagine. I mean, obviously I know your wife knows that you're
It was more about, honestly, it was more about them and their kids,
Right.
if anything. It just wouldn't have been proper
Right.
for them to be getting high in front of their kids.
Gotcha.
But I'm I'm in that generation,
yeah.
but I'm not their kid.
Right.
And I'm standing there as,
Right.
a
They brought you
regular
to the
man,
circle, right,
and I'm
you're
a
at the
regular
table.
guy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a guy. I have, at this point in my life, I have a career.
Yeah.
I'm pretty serious about
Right.
their daughter who is but to them, she's that different generation, right? She's
Right.
that kid.
Right.
And there's that stigma around. They're not going to get high in front
So
of her.
even though if the kids we're talking about or around your age, like so they're just carrying something that doesn't really exist because like if they fucking said to you we're going to out back and smoke with Jay, like they're not going to you're not going to care.
I wouldn't have cared. I probably would have asked to join them, but I don't know. There probably would have been a respect thing. I don't know. I guess I could. As I'm sitting here having a beer, ripping 10, 12 years, 13 years later with you, I can make a wise ass comment. Like, yeah, I probably would have asked, but honestly, I don't know if they'd even said it and announced it in front of me. Unless I was invited, I would go, all right, guys, see you later. Like I'm staying here with my girlfriend.
So what do you think it was that they said to you? Why do you think they said it to you? Like, come back. What do you think?
Well,
it was?
again, it was this one particular uncle who was like the most super friendly. He put me into the position to just basically do it. Right. And I've actually laughed with my wife since then, being like, do you think he was like, just like, fuck this, it's time, time to indoctrinate him? Right? Or maybe he just liked me enough in the moment, he was just having a good time. And what I boiled it down to was just that he was going to go out back and get high, and I was a guest in his house, and I'd been a guest in his house a couple of times at this point. He's like, you better come on out. If you like to come out, hang on out. I think he might have thought that was always the code that everybody does. Right. I don't know that he might not have known that I was even really clued into it, which was even better. Made it all the more innocent. Gotcha. But I actually really did have the tie to the MG, and it was pretty funny. But
nice.
I could have been the asshole that's like, what the fuck's an MG? Who knows? No.
So were you into your dad's MGs?
It was how I learned how to drive.
Oh,
I learned how to drive on a
shift,
fucking stick shift, 4-speed 77 MG.
But I
could barely fit in it because I'm 6 foot tall. I was 6'4". I could barely fit in the whole thing anyway.
You're about 6 feet. I know you are.
Yeah,
I'm 6'1", I'm taller than you are.
I wish.
You wish you were 6 feet.
Size
you wish
15 shoes and 6'4" doesn't make things easy, bub.
I can't imagine that's very difficult.
Shaq was the best thing that ever happened to me as a kid.
I mean, I'm whatever. We don't have to get into this, but I'm 6'1", 13. So I mean, you think because that's like the upper limit of like normal.
15. It's fine to find 15.
Yeah, I guess 15s are tough. That's all special order.
I mean, you get like 3 options nowadays. Back in the day when I was a kid, my mom would just be like, walk in and be like, "Are there any 15s in here?" Because I was a 15 when I was like 14.
Yeah,
of age. So
yeah,
sucks. But
so where'd you have to get your shoes? I guess some like
I remember in the mall in Middletown, New York. Finish line started once. So Shaq hit the scene. What 97, 96, 97, 98. Like so that was like my junior senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Life got better once Shaq showed up because he was like a 23 or whatever.
We'll
so that started to be.
Video. Love you, Shaq.
Love you, Shaq. Thanks, brother. Making huge shoes, and then the Jordans got bigger. They all started like I don't know, but I remember back in the day it was like I'd walk into a store and just, what do you got? Anything?
I told you that Shaq story,
Anything?
right? I told you my special Shaq
when he was hanging in Harvard Square.
No, that
what do you got?
I think that was your story. No, remember my son went to that daycare.
Oh yeah,
and he pulled up in like his fucking like Mack truck that had like the Superman logo, like on the side, and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" He was just throwing out fucking like signed basketballs, like mini basketballs to the kids, and my son was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, that's where, and all I remember is that's where I remember telling you about my Shaq story where he was just fucking around in Harvard Square, which is not nearly as cool as yours is, but that's another story.
They're equally as cool.
But yeah, dads that smoke, stigmas, a lot of trepidation in the market. CBD market, totally flush. All kinds of imposters. Do your research, folks.
That was the other thing about CBD oil, and
gotta be careful.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that some of it has to be some sort of like pharmaceutical grade, like CBD oil, or like what are you looking for if you're actually looking to buy CBD oil? What's
really what it is you want to be looking at. I don't know about pharmaceutical grade. I'm not sure. I would definitely research that term a little bit more, but I would say what you're looking for is something that's not cut or it has any additives, things like that.
What would be added to a CBD oil?
I mean, I think any kind of
filler.
Yeah, any kind of filler. Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to be looking at the ingredients. You want to be researching a couple of reputable companies. There's plenty out there, but there's just also plenty of you can also go to the gas station and get CBD.
Do you have a list of a couple of reputable companies?
We can text out we can send out a list of like 3 or 4 that I know that are okay, that I have some friends that have used and stuff like that, personal experience. But yeah, you can fucking buy CBD at a gas station now, dude. It's like, you got to be careful. It's like dick pills. You can just buy them anywhere now. It's wild. You know what? Extreme Extends. You can buy Extends and CBD at the fucking gas station.
Where do they sell these dick pills though? Because
you know where to get some Extends. You know where they are.
Is that what
you
they call
and Jimmy
them?
Johnson from the NFL?
That's
remember those little commercials?
Is that that's what they found in his
Frank Thomas talking about how he hits home runs and has a huge dick because of Extends, right?
Wow, this
sorry, Frank.
Story's gone way fucking around and down the toilet. Or maybe up the toilet.
Whatever.
All around. All right. Well, I enjoyed that conversation. I think we turned it around a little bit.
I'm glad that I put a smile on your face. Yeah. I love you.
I think we were questioning whether or not this would happen tonight, and then I reminded him
we're gonna do some. We got a couple of awesome interviews we're gonna do. We have some good people to talk to.
Yeah.
We just got to get our equipment, our technical issues sorted out a little bit.
We'll get
this figured out. We're just new to this stuff. We have a lot to say. We got a lot of content.
Yep.
We just want to get it out there.
Yeah.
I appreciate your passion. I love you for it. It's just we got to get you in the right mindset.
That's the fucking OCD, man. I gotta fix everything. It's all gotta work. I can't just sit here and let things not work. And I guess that's part of the cure, right? It's just being able to unwind that fucking mindset.
That's why we'll balance out. We just hang out and have some of this fucking 3 ounces of brown booze and have a good time for a few minutes and not worry about the goddamn Skype call. We'll get that Skype call. It's okay.
Fuck that Skype call.
We're going to talk.
We're on to you. We're going to get you.
We got 3 great ones. Eric, the next Eric, we got another Eric that we're going to talk to. We got a couple of good. We got a good lineup coming up.
Yeah, he's got a good story. He was talking to me about some purple buds that was some difficult thing to grow.
That motherfucker's a botanist. I want to talk to him about grow. We got all kinds of growing. We have several chapters we can do with that fucking guy.
All right, guys.
Let's put these people out of their misery.
Thanks for hanging on if you hung on. Love you. Talk to you later. Bye.
What is this?
Is it over?
We're running out of time.
I don't want to hear your excuses. No, it's not fair.
Where'd all the files go?